Hello everybody, it's Merlin here, and today I'm going to give you a request vlog, and it's my thoughts on Digimon. The request was literally Digimon thoughts. I'm guessing because there's some new Digimon stuff going on. Digimon is something that I could probably talk about. I don't know, this might be a long video. Digimon, I believe, I actually put the first 2 seasons, because that's kind of its own series, of the original Digimon in my top 20 favorite anime series. Really, I mean, from a nostalgic standpoint, the first couple Digimon with the original Digi Destined, that would be Digimon Adventure 1 and 2, absolutely loved it as a kid. I can actually, my memory's pretty good, so I can remember the first time actually hearing about it, because at the time when I was a kid, this would have been like in the mid-late 90s, I was a bit young then, and I was big into Pokemon, and I kind of thought Pokemon and Digimon were similar, obviously, and I remember seeing a trailer on Fox Kids just like showing a bit clips of the first episode. These kids getting transported to this other world, and they have these like little creatures that help fight other monsters, and they could talk to them. I'm like, okay, this is kind of like Pokemon, but it seems cooler. I know, blasphemy for some people, but yeah, I remember the thing was though, my mom and sister and I went on a trip, and we actually were going to be away, and I'm like, I have to make sure that I see it. So I remembered we went over to a friend's house or something, one of my mother's friends, or something like that. And I remember that wherever we were, I got up really early in the morning and found the station and tuned in, and I saw the first episode. I'm like, I want to see this so badly, and I just loved it. And from that point on, I followed the first couple seasons pretty much religiously. I absolutely loved it. I recorded it when I missed it. Yeah, Digimon was literally like one of my favorite shows as a kid. And I actually did start to watch the third one. I believe so. I believe it was Digimon Tamers. I did start to watch the 3rd season, but I never got all the way through. I know a lot of people like that one, and that's kind of where my knowledge of Digimon ends. So 2.5 of the seasons I know about, basically. But I know a lot of people like the 3rd one, and I've heard it goes much more complex. But the thing that kind of bothered me about it was that the other series, the first 2 that I loved so much, were basically a fictional universe within that one, which is clever in a meta sort of way, but it made me feel like the other characters that I followed for 2 years didn't matter. So, you know, that's why I kind of look at it as like an alternate universe thing. So that's fine, but if I'm talking about that, I'm primarily talking about those characters. Who knows, I might even do like a full review of it at some point, but Digimon just has such an appeal, because I watched it a couple years ago again just to see if it held up, and it holds up really well. That's the bizarre thing about it. It's actually still really enjoyable, even watching it as an adult. There's still a lot you can take into it. I think that the early seasons, well, the early episodes at least, they can kind of drag, like learning about all the characters, and as they all evolve and go through the transformations, it can get a little tedious, but once the plots start to get going, I honestly think that they had some really fun villains. I mean, Devimon, Edamon, Myotismon. Myotismon's like one of the great anime villains. I mean, he's incredibly generic, but he was such an imposing force. I mean, he was a vampire that freaking, you know, just, he literally sucked people's energy. He killed people practically. They didn't say that, obviously. The ladies passed out, but, you know, clever Fox Kids, you know, American dubbing once again. Let's edit out, like, the darker elements of Digimon, but no. The best thing about Digimon, I think it has some, it's a little bit cheesy, of course, but, you know, following the lines with shonen stuff, it's really not much more cheesy than anything you'd see in One Piece or something like that, where, you know, all the characters have a certain aspect of themselves that stands out, which is one of the reasons why they're chosen. And it follows along the same example of the character anybody can be related to. Anyone can kind of take their place in their shoes and say, wow, this could be me. And all these young kids come together to save this world, and in turn save their own world. And of course, some of them are powered by courage. It was like there's the crest of friendship, and I think love or something, compassion, wisdom, stuff like that. But each of the characters had their own particular one. And the thing was, though, surprisingly, most of them, with the exception of Mimi, I mean, I like Mimi, but Mimi was the only character I could say in the original cast that was a caricature rather than a character. But all the other characters, though, were actually very believable kids. I mean, tough kids for sure, and some of them more mature than others, but I could really believe that these were kids in this situation experiencing these problems. And they dealt with some pretty dark things, the bond of brotherhood with family being torn apart, feeling like an outcast, feeling like you don't fit in, not trusting each other, some of these kids getting into fights. And that was the most interesting aspect of the series, was watching these kids grow and interact with each other and bounce off each other and develop as people. You know, like Ty and Matt and TK, Izzy, Sora, Joe. Wow, I remember them all. And what was it, Ty's sister? Can't remember her name, but she was a big deal when she showed up. And I love the Digimon too. I thought they were all really fun. I always got excited when they were like, the theme song came on, like, Digivolve into champions, and they would just like turn to like these giant behemoths. Like Joe's like a giant mammoth, like with this horn that shot out and became a missile. Just early anime awesomeness before I really understood what anime was. But just the monsters are great, and just like seeing them evolve and fight some of these bad guys, it's just really awesome, you know? But yeah, I mean, and I will admit that I think the first season probably is my favorite, but the second one did delve into some other areas. I like the fact that they brought back a previous film with Myotismon, spoilers, and how he infiltrated another person. I thought the Digimon Emperor was a little corny, but pretty good in the second season. Though I thought the fact that turning him into a hero was actually kind of welcome. I didn't like the monsters quite as much, like the second generation. I still like the original kids the best, but because the second one's pretty much a direct sequel, I still accepted it. In terms of the Digimon franchise as a whole, I can't really say that I got into it much past that point. I kind of have the nostalgic attachment to the first couple series, and that's about it. But on the whole, I know that a lot of people are kind of interested in the other ones, and there's some new stuff coming out soon, so that is pretty cool. If you haven't watched Digimon and you didn't grow up with it, I can honestly recommend it. I really can. Like, whether you want to watch the dub or the sub, obviously there's a preference, but seriously, if you haven't watched Digimon in a long time, or you never watched it before, I can honestly say, if you have any attachment to Pokemon, you'll get something out of Digimon, because while it might not be as addicting in terms of, you know, obviously Pokemon's a bigger franchise with the games and everything, and the manga might be better, but Digimon just has, honestly, within the core story, better characters, better plot lines, and much more thematic exploration. You know, not that I'm trying to bring up the Pokemon-Digimon debate. I think that's kind of a moot point. I think anybody that is comparing the anime series side by side, it's obvious which one's better. But overall, I know that's a different thing. Still, like I said, I can honestly recommend Digimon to you if you haven't watched it. I still love it a lot. I think it's definitely got its place in my heart. And I think just in anime in general, I think, as a kid's show and good family entertainment. Alright guys, those are my thoughts on Digimon. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and have a wonderful day. Alright guys, stay magical.